The third day of December. After her long train trip, Miranda arrived at the royal palace and stood in the center of her uncle's library. She admired the rows of books that lined the walls from floor to ceiling and breathed in the familiar musty smell of the old manuscripts. It was the smell of her childhood. She loved this room. She turned to face the fireplace and stretched out her hand to warm them. Silently, a panel in the bookcase opened behind her, and Chloe entered the room. The panel slipped shut behind him. Chloe was surprised to see his niece warming herself beside the fire. "Miranda!" he cried, throwing open his arms. Miranda swung around to face her uncle. "Uncle Chloe, you scared me. You can't enter a room by the door like everyone else," she teased, rushing across the room to give her uncle a hug. "Why are you home so early? I didn't expect you for another 2 weeks." "Sit with me by the fire, Uncle Chloe, and I'll tell you everything." Chloe looked suspiciously at his niece as they sat. "What do you mean, everything?" "I've come home early to work on a school project. It's a project in architecture." "Architecture?" Chloe gasped. "I sent you away to school to become a wizard, not an architect." "I wasn't a very good wizard. I couldn't cast spells, and my potions never worked. Architecture is more interesting. I plan to become a first-class architect, which is better than a second-class wizard." Chloe made no comment. "Now tell me everything that has happened since I left," Miranda said, filling the silence. Chloe started to tell Miranda about the prince's plan to build a new palace. "That's great news! A new palace in the kingdom? That's even more exciting than my project." And just what is that project?" "I want to do some renovations on the Nice palace. That's why I've come home early." Chloe shook his head. He told Miranda about the magic compass and the prince's plan to make all the palaces in the kingdom vanish. When Miranda heard of this plan, she jumped to her feet. "He's nothing but an overgrown brat. Miranda, show some respect. After all, he is a prince." "But Uncle Chloe, I have plans to renovate all the palaces in the kingdom." Chloe began to laugh. For as long as he could remember, the prince and Miranda had been competing with each other. He was happy that Miranda had come home early, even though her news about becoming an architect was not what he had expected. "Maybe you can talk some sense into the prince," Chloe said. "Well, I just can't let him destroy all the palaces in the kingdom," Miranda said. "I'll be out of a job. I plan to renovate one palace each year for the next 24 years. Can't you just reverse the magic on the magic compass?" The magic compass was made for the prince. He's the only one who can reverse the magic. If anyone other than the prince tinkers with it, they will turn to stone. "Wait till I get my hands on him," Miranda said. "You've had a long journey, Miranda. Rest. Tomorrow the prince will unveil his plans for the new palace. You can give him an earful then." Chloe kissed his niece and walked her to the door. He returned to the fire and stared into the flames, when there was suddenly so many things to worry about. He had looked forward to the day where he might retire and allow Miranda to become the new wizard in the kingdom. But nothing was going as he had planned. The prince wanted to destroy all the palaces, and Miranda wanted to renovate them. Why couldn't they just leave things alone? And with these thoughts, Chloe shut his eyes and fell into a troubled sleep. Early that same evening, Clipper was preparing for bed at the Nice palace. He had spent the day stringing holly berries to make garlands to hang from the arches and to drape on the Christmas tree. He had washed his hands over and over again. The holly berries had dyed the tips of his fingers a rosy red. Balto and Tandra tucked Clipper into bed and blew out the candles. But Clipper couldn't sleep. He was thinking about the trolls of the glen. He had been thinking about them all day, forgetting what his parents had told him the night before. He had forgotten that he shouldn't let trolls walk around in his thoughts for too long. On the far side of the kingdom, in the glen, stood Troll Castle, and in the kitchen of the castle, 2 old trolls were snoring in their rocking chairs. Spike the dog lay at their feet. Suddenly, Fanica, the older of the 2 trolls, awoke with a jump. She shook her brother. "Wake up, Archibald, wake up!" Archibald jumped from his chair. "Oh, Fanica," he said, "it's only you. I was having such a nice dream." "Trolls don't have nice dreams, Archibald. They have nightmares. How many times do I have to tell you that?" "Sorry, Fanica, I forgot." "Never mind. There are more important things to discuss, Archibald. I heard the thought of a niece child." Archibald began to look around the kitchen excitedly. "A niece? Here? We haven't had guests in over 100 years. Where is it?" "It's not an it. It's a him. And he isn't here. I heard his thoughts in my big ears, somewhere in the kingdom, within the safety of the Nice palace. A little niece has been thinking about trolls. Do you know what that means?" Archibald clapped his hands. "It means we're going to have guests!" Fanica rolled her eyes. Archibald was a big disappointment as far as trolls went. He was kind and gentle, considerate and polite. He was everything Finika hated in other creatures. She scampered across the big, messy kitchen to the vat of boiling milk, which stood in the center of the room. "Archibald, fetch me the troll powder," she shouted. Finika had many different powders lining the shelves of the kitchen. There were sneezing powders, itching powders, flea powders, and the one she needed now. Archibald reached up to the top shelf and fetched the powder Finika wanted. It was a powder that would allow her to see the thoughts of other creatures. So she sprinkled the powder into the vat of boiling milk. "Can you see the niece, Finika? Can you?" Archibald asked from over Finika's shoulder. "No, I can't see anything. The little creature must have fallen asleep. I can't look into his dreams. But tomorrow, when he wakes up, maybe he'll think about us again. I'll see him in my vat of boiling milk, and then I'll know exactly where the niece palace is hidden." "And do you know what that means, Archibald?" "It means the nieces are in big trouble." "Exactly. When I know where the niece palace is, I will know where the niece handbook is. And when I have the niece handbook, I will have all of their secrets." "What secrets are those, Finika?" That's what a secret is, something to discover." Finika began to laugh. Archibald rubbed one foot behind the other. "Finika, since you're in a good mood, do you think this year that maybe we could get a Christmas tree?" Finika jumped up and down. "A Christmas tree? How many times have I told you? Trolls are allergic to Christmas trees." Spike looked up at her and growled. There, doggy, take it easy," she said. Finika didn't like dogs, and they didn't like her much either. "Take that mutt for a walk, Archibald. I'm going to bed. I want to be well rested so I can think up ways to catch nieces." She stomped out of the kitchen and slammed the door behind her. Archibald waited until she was sure she was gone before he went to the cupboard in the corner of the kitchen. He opened the door and took out a tiny Christmas tree, no bigger than a foot high. He placed the tiny tree on the center of the table. It drooped slightly to one side in the pot. "In a forest, in a glen, in a field, or a fox's den, there grows a seed, a little each day, bursting forth on the 1st of May. Through rains of spring and summer's warmth, under autumn's cloak and winds from the north, the little seed grows long and tall, until that day it decks the halls. Balls of glass sparkles on green, presents wrapped with all our dreams. Candy canes dangle, and strings of berries adorn your figure to make us merry." The little Christmas tree continued to droop, and Archibald sighed. Spike barked and pointed at his water bowl. "Are you thirsty, Spike?" Archibald asked. Spike shook his head and pointed his paw at the little tree. "Of course, maybe the tree's just thirsty." Archibald gave the little tree some water from Spike's bowl, and immediately it straightened up. "What a clever dog you are, Spike. Come on, let's go for a walk." Archibald put the leash around Spike's head and headed for the door. "Oops, I almost forgot. I can't let Finika find my Christmas tree," he said, and he returned the little tree to the cupboard. "Until tomorrow," he whispered, and took Spike outside. What adventures were in store for Archibald tomorrow, and what about the nieces? Would Finika find them through her magic of her troll powders in the vat of boiling milk? And would the prince continue to make the other palaces in the kingdom vanish before Christmas? Until tomorrow, good night.